Hey everyone, it's Anthony and
Katya.
we're going to continue into the second part of our transmission, which is now moving from this topic of victim, or focusing on our victim, our shadow, and we're going to explain what happens when that becomes the phoenix, when that rises into freedom and to express itself as the Kundalini, as the dragon in your genome. So this is ultimately what Kundalini is it is that coiled serpent, the snake, which the snake is a symbol of our awakening, our potential, our power, coiled up as Kundalini, the serpent in the base of your spine, and through awakening that energy. And this is not just a yoga practice, this is a lifestyle practice. This is living day in and day out, doing efforts towards bringing your divine nature back into reality. So it's a huge process of remembering and reconnecting to your beloved, because Kundalini is the mother. She is you when you surrender to your partner, when you surrender to the one that's been with you when you entered and the one that's going to be with you when you leave. That journey for us, what it meant when we experienced this sacredness, the Kundalini, or when we experienced that together, because we had a very spontaneous meeting, and normally the meetings are on a different proportion altogether. They don't, when you're activating the Kundalini, when you're activating the freedom, and for me they're synonyms, because what is the freedom? It's when we're no longer separating light and dark, or sun and moon, day and night, when these two polarities don't anymore seem different from one another. That is Kundalini, and that is when we're no longer in a confusion about who we are, but we're actually expressing who we are.
I feel you already brought so many deep topics just in the introduction of this video. The first word I want to say that the freedom is our eternal state. And the freedom can never be found outside of ourselves. At the same time, everything in life reflects you to you, as you are a creator. And of course, we're not gonna go now into the full creator codes and explaining of dimensions and all the things. That's gonna be later in our program, and that's things that gonna come at some point later on. But now we just wanna continue topic about freedom, and that's in fact is enlightenment. Is not far away than at
Tip of your nose.
the tip of your nose,
Or beneath your nose.
but we just never look there. We say about the way how we met and the Kundalini, because the connection, our connection was through Kundalini. And here where things becoming
And the death.
things becoming tricky and interesting, because when you go really to be fully who you are and activate your whole potential, and the mission kind of these videos and what we're sharing is to create a path for you as well to activate yourself, to activate your energy, to activate your Kundalini. And it's not like some voodoo things, and it's not a Kundalini activation sessions, and it's not what you might think it is. The real Kundalini is It's a very subtle and strong energy at the same time. The activation of this means you becoming fully alive. And it takes time also to embody fully this, to learn.
You're remembering. I also want to add that word.
Yeah, remembering, to learn how to live as a god on the earth. Maybe it sounds too much right now, but this is where we kind of go in and aiming. And we're not saying that we are always 100% in that state of mentality, because we are also in a process, still in a process of,
Matrix.
not matrix, but how to say, you know, when you're here to share something deep and profound, you can transmute not only your personal shadows, but also collective. And we've been on our journeys before we met one another. 2 years ago, when we met one another, the journey just started, even if it looked like an end for me. And I'll tell you why. Because before I met Anthony, the life forced me to live kind of the most comfortable and amazing relationship for my personality that I had at the time. And as well, something I forget to share, that's why we're even speaking about like love and relationship if we speak about freedom, because you might think that it's something that's separate topics, because freedom is when you're free from anything, when you're free from even like kind of need of partner, or like you just absolutely whole within yourself. That's true. But when you're really in a union within, it can also be manifested as a union outside of yourself. For some people it's a case, for some people they don't need it, but they can create a union with earth itself, for example, with animal, with tree. So don't limit yourself with just the idea of a human, because it can be much deeper. The 55 Jinki is the key that is also showing us what the true love, the true romance, the sacred union, the sacred couple, the sacred marriage, what is it? The codes that are here. So, and something that we as humanity, let's say like this, we kind of always as humanity have these dreams, all this yearning for the love, the one, all these movies we see, which is kind of the opposite, you know, these like melodramas, which are opposite of what the true love, because they're just built on emotions and codependency, the victim state. But it's like a distorted version of what the truth is, and what the true love doesn't mean it's bad. It's just, we can look at this as just a shadow version, distorted version of the truth. How we met and why we're sharing about this, because the romance is a part of freedom. The true love and true union is a part of global activation, which gonna, again, as I shared before in the previous video, happen in 2027 when 55 Jinki, as well as 59, which is in fact activating the dragon and transmuting the Kundalini, not transmuting, activating the Kundalini, and kind of doing this inner alchemy that you can also find in Dao practices. This is what's going to happen in 2027. We're preparing, and we're really going to enter an era for the true unions to happen. Again, don't limit yourself with just idea of a human. It doesn't, or just like opposite genders, because the varieties can be different. And we also entering the era of collective awakening. That is not only about even you and couple, it's even beyond this. It's about collective.
When people talk about awakening and activating the Kundalini in themselves, they always try and go out there and find a guru and some school or some lineage to give them that. Unfortunately, they will only give you how much they have developed themselves. A guru can only give you what they have in themselves. And to be honest with you guys, that's not the full picture of who you are, because who you are is unique. What you have to bring in this world, what you have to give, is more than what any guru is gonna give. They're gonna help you to see things, but you at some stage have to recognize that space within yourself. You have to walk that path of surrender, which is ultimately what having a teacher or having a relationship is about. It's about surrendering, is ultimately so that you can face your discomfort. It starts with your relationships that you have in your life. These are the people that are going to test you more than anything. Especially now, more starseed, more people are incarnating in the earth already with this activation of solar plexus, and we're going to see it more happening now as 2027 passes us, and this is the third great stage of evolution. I mean, there's been a lot of people talking about 2027 from different soul families, different fractal groups, different groups of people who've come here to well, make us remember who we are, that we're not, like we said at the start of this episode, that we're not alone, we're not separate, it's all one. It's all one. We're all here doing it together. So, but a lot of people have been sharing that this next year is the year. And we all, the earth, if you see right now, it's in a huge catharsis. And there's like, we're on the brink of maybe, I don't want to manifest these viruses and all these things, but there's a lot of things happening. It's just important to see all of these elements right now as we traverse this quite profound time to be alive. One of the main teachings of the 55 gene key is to take notice of all of these great events that are happening within us and within humanity at large. And so just taking notice of them and appreciating them, all of them that are here. They're here as blessings. They're here for your inner transmutation.
More sounds like a grace, an energy of grace that comes to remind us of our true nature, but can show us the inner suffering, and through that show us the grace that within, and helps us to see that sometimes the bad things is leading to the biggest grace, or they are also grace because they are a part of some bigger picture and helps to activate you and your higher mission, your higher purpose, and eventually for us to awake as humanity. And of course, like, let's say, even maybe if there is 1% of the chance, I feel I want to more speak at the end of this video about this collective awakening and global events. Right now, I still want to answer that question you asked me, or reflect about this Kundalini process in our meeting, because I skipped it.
Yeah. Let's start with ourselves, with the body first. All the other things that are happening are more the reflection of what's happening within. So that's why we started the video by sharing about Kundalini in the first place, is because Kundalini is all about the body. It's all about turning in. Of course, it is a aspect of ourself in the divine, and it's in the quantum field, but it's also something inherently sacred, and this is what we're doing here on this earth.
Yes.
Where we've come here to remember what is what is life, what all these different planets, all these different constellations. If we speak about it on this level, all these constellations, they each represent an aspect of Kundalini. They each reflect to us an aspect of our shadow that we must face, so that we can discover who we are. And that is what this this love is. In fact, it is about this. So let's dive in.
So the journey, in fact, for the union outside was through inner union. And the day we met with Anthony in India, in the place called Tiruvannamalai, which is a very sacred and spiritual place, the last thing I wanted at that point, at that time, was any relationship or the twin flame or any kind of these things. I was still recovering from breakup that I had before. And that breakup was not because something was wrong in that relationship. Of course, there were certain things, but in most of it was just amazing, beautiful human relationship. But that my soul told that it's time to move forward. And that was also biggest lesson for me as a creator, or somebody who in fact has a method, creator codes, and teaching people how to be creator. That, and this is something that we're gonna also do later, that creation doesn't belong to you. Creation doesn't belong to creator. You create, you let go. Everything always changing in forms and changing in cycles. What has ever started at some point will end, because it's part of the cycle of life. And the creator is always bigger than creation itself. And so then I went to India, and the day before we met, I had a session I received myself. There was like summer programming, let's say. And so I think I still remember it was 9th of February, the day we met. And
She's better with the dates than me.
it just came to me right now, honestly. But I think it was 9th of February.
It was around 8 or 9. Well, because I remember my retreat with my one teacher was finishing February 5th. And then we went straight to South India from the center of India. And that was how we kind of met, in a spontaneous explosion of recognition, recognizing something that's always been there, and a memory of the soul that's from
Far away.
That's from, it's far away, which means basically that it's from a long time ago, in a galaxy far, far away. It's really a profound journey when you meet somebody who is a reflection of you, or let's say the great mirror of the soul of you.
Great mirror sounds like a great perfection.
Well, it is a great perfection if you manage to integrate the mirror into your life. If you manage to embrace that big shadow which is you.
I just wanted something who doesn't know the great perfection of...
It's a Dzogchen. Dzogchen means the Dzogpa Chenpo, the great perfection. So it is the highest form, it is the highest, what's called the highest jewel of Buddhism is the teaching that all is already as it is, the spontaneous great perfection. And you don't need to... there's my lizards. They always love truth. So that's the thing. The spontaneous great perfection is already always as it is perfect. And why it's so interesting, also why where we met, and the experiences that ensued where we met, was because we met in the temple city of Tiruvannamalai.
the heart of the fire.
Yes, Arunachala, as if you might have heard, and if you've had the benefit to go there already, you know what we're talking about. For those of you who are not familiar with this place, it's very Shiva energy. The energy connects a lot with consciousness, with capital C, and it's a field of miracles, because consciousness is itself a miracle. Existence itself is profound. It's almost, you know, it's almost impossible to to have this three-dimensional experience, but actually we all come from the nine. We come from the completion number, the nine, the ninth dimension. So Tiruvannamalai is a place where the nine comes down and meets the third. You know, and that also means there's a lot of six-dimensional, but we will get into that.
Yeah, we're already going into things that we're gonna explain much later.
Yeah, we're excited to share a lot of this kind of things. Why I wanted to share that was that this connection was the mechanism of it is based on spontaneous awareness. It's based on the spontaneous perfect state of awareness. And we at first were, it's almost like a movie when you see two people that are like taken out of their lives and thrown together in the same place at once, and then it's like a match.
But what I would say, it was not a love from first sight. Because the very first sight, when I saw him, I was annoyed.
Yeah.
I'll better say disturbed. Because going back to the story, we met at this like daytime pool party of my previous spiritual
Not like a club, but a spiritual gathering of people at a pool.
Because my previous teacher that I had a retreat with before that place, he moved to a new like big house with a swimming pool that was quite rare at that area of India, like not so much houses with swimming pool. And so of course he invited all of us, like the group of people who were there, who we were like a community. And he invited all of us to celebrate like in the morning, maybe like at 12 or 11 in the morning. And of course I didn't expect to see anybody new, except from those who I already met, you know, who already were part of the group. Even if it was said that we can invite friends, but kind of when I saw him, when I entered the space, the living room, and as I said, I was still recalibrating, because the day before I had a deep session and I was in a very vulnerable state myself and sensitive. And so when I saw him there, and he looked like, I mean, he's looking like Indian, but before even there, he looked like 100% Indian. I was absolutely sure that he's some Indian guy. And I was like, what this Indian guy is doing here? Who's he? So I was more felt disturbed than kind of happy to see him, and definitely was not like butterflies and all this excitement.
Indian people are beautiful. There's nothing wrong with Indian people. They're my brothers and sisters, so I have a lot of love for all of them. I think why I was also probably indistinguishable from an Indian was because I went pretty deep into Indian Tantra, classical form, and so I was at that point engrossed in the very traditional way of being Indian. I was eating with my hands. I was, doing pujas every day, doing mantras every day. I was wearing basically a cloth, which is...
I mean, you were wearing normal clothes when we met.
Don't lose the theme. No, but I was wearing basically a cloth most of the time. It was called a dhoti, and it's this kind of religious uniform that you wear just to do practice in India. And to temples, normally men need to wear, actually, if you're going to serious temple, you can't enter without a dhoti. So it's quite important. And I was wearing that for like 5 weeks at that point almost, and So I was totally
Absorbed.
I was absorbed, but I was also like in my alchemy process, I was in this kind of transmutation of the solar plexus. I was in that. I also went to a place in India which is known to be connected with Surya, which is known to be connected with Surya Dev, which is the sun, the god of the sun, which is one of the five main kind of lineages of divine beings that you would worship in India. So I was in the area which is very solar plexus centered, and so I was fully doing fast burning fiery process, which led up to us having met one another in this place. And so just maybe this whole process that ensued from there was, you couldn't really plan it. It was more like falling from the sky, like an alien ship crash on the earth, like this kind of level of conspiracy, So it was really another worldly experience. And what I would say is you can prepare for those kind of experiences, like I was speaking another time about Kundalini and building the architecture for the snake to rise in you. You need to look, however, at the whole spectrum of Kundalini, that she rises when there's enough openness in her to make that ascent. She's not going to ascend if you're still trying to figure out, if you're still stuck in survival. So that's straight off the bat. The second thing is, when you're just thinking about lustful thoughts and just pleasure seeking, she's not going to hang around very long. And then also, if you're just busy in material world, she also doesn't fancy that either. And so, although, that's all Kundalini, that's all the snake, that's all the wisdom, because that's all connected with different forms of energy. But she really rises when you no longer living just from brain, but you're living from body entirely. So the brain serves the heart, the brain serves the solar plexus. The consciousness doesn't just preside in your head, in your thoughts, but it's in your body as well.
As I said, first I was disturbed. And then we went to our garden, all the group of people who were there, and we started to do this process with the Ganesh statue.
Prana Pratishta. Yeah, sometimes when you spend enough time in India, you realize how crazy you are. How many crazy things you've discovered about yourself. Prana Pratishta is essentially a way to worship an object by imbuing it with consciousness and with Shakti, especially with energy, conscious energy, that's called Shakti. And when the energy becomes conscious, it's basically like a human, because we are conscious energy, like we're energy that is aware of itself. We are the full expression of that, but the objects as well can also have a certain capacity of consciousness. We were doing some process for that to happen.
Yes, and so the previous teacher who I was connected with, he kind of explained the process, so we started to do, and then there was a moment when you had to do something with the fire and mantras, and kind of nobody could really do this, and then Anthony at some point, he was like this face, just give it to me, like kind of, he looked how nobody can manage. He's like, kind of, just give it to me. Because again, he just came back from the place where they've been doing this different processes, different ceremonies. The moment he started to do this process and chant the mantra, I felt how my Kundalini gets immediately activated. And I had already awakened Kundalini, but there was quite a surprise for me that I can have this full experience just from somebody singing mantra. And there have been a lot of people around me singing mantra. Again, I've been in Tiruvannamalai. There's a lot of temples. There is a path called Girivalam when you go around the mountain, and there's a lot of mantras, there are a lot of pujas, so the ceremony is everywhere. The city is called a temple city.
Maybe as well, we'll take some of you guys, we'll take some of you, Lizard also like this idea, but we will take some of you guys there in the future.
My Kundalini get immediately activated, and his frequency of the voice and the energy, and then I looked at him kind of with different eyes. I was like, who's this guy? And then, of course, the connection started to blossom naturally as a recognition, first of all. And when we are connecting with our true nature of the true freedom, and this is something that's important to understand, again, why, for example, we speak about here relationship or union, because the true union would be for you a reflection of the true nature of who you are, and that means God, that means the source, or that divine love. And it will test you. Are you ready to embody this? Are you ready to become it? Do you ready to give up, to surrender, to let go of that attachment of victim, this small ego that thinks it's very big and constantly need a proof that it does exist? Do you ready to give up that attempt and these games to just become who you are? And when this type of love is entering your life, you feel very like first like something really great happening, a huge expansion. And again, I'm somebody who was in a spiritual path for 10 years, so I had a lot of different mystical, profound experiences, death experience, like awakening experience, a lot of journey. And when I say experience, it doesn't mean just something happened once. No, it's like, it's kind of a life path and things that were building and growing and stabilizing, how I was learning to stabilize, for example, in the awakened state and these things, and sometimes even go back to shadow as a part of stabilizing, or a part of still awakening, which we may not see if we think linear. But when you feel the deeper love coming into life, that is a freedom, because when you see reflection of who you truly are, and I'm not saying about like your human self, even if it's still beautiful, but I'm more saying of the true self, which is beyond any linear way or any ideas, and even beyond an idea of God. But when you face the truth, you feel at the same time two things. That's again, when we go to quantum field, we enter a space of paradoxes, because there is where things exist at the same time, which are contradictory. So at the same time, you feel a huge attraction, not like attraction even it's not like sexual attraction. It's more like this huge magnet, like a merging, and at the same time, like you wanna also reject it, because the ego says, no way, like I'm just gonna fucking die in this light, like I'm just gonna just completely dissolve in this light. But at the same time, when there is a second in your soul, there is a second of recognition, a little moment when you recognize in this light yourself, in the soul, let's say the source, and you there's a moment of even little remembrance that this is you, then that yearning or that calling, that remembrance becomes stronger than a fear of death. Yeah, it's about remembering, and through remembering, surrendering to who you always truly are, and not the ideas of the victim who tries to play out to prove that it exists, but of what is really you.
There's so much inside of us that we haven't fully tapped into as a species, as a collective, those who are on the planet incarnated right now, and those, you know, who will come as well. And it's all about the new human. It's all about the new version of. It's not actually new, but it's good to call it new, because people to realize that it's where we're headed and it's what's coming. It's that level of freedom that we're talking about. So we're not talking about the freedom of speech or the freedom of travel and all these things, which, these were the types of freedom we were struggling with for the last 400 years. But now we're moving in, especially after 2012, now 2027. 2027 is the next major, let's say, equinox, the next major turning point of the world's calendar. The calendar of consciousness is moving to its a next stage, and it's important for everyone to notice that all the things that are happening around us are real. That's really happening. Don't feel like it's not. It's something from like a Marvel film, it's impossible, like it's Doctor Strange, No, we'll get into that later on, but it really is that strange. And we'll share with you guys in the next part, 3 parts of this series of transmitting what is freedom. We'll let you guys know what is the crystallization or the fruit. So we have the seed, the flower, and the fruit. That's coming next. We explained to you guys just now the flowers.
Yes, there are a lot of things that happening on the earth which are looking pretty terrible, let's say like this. It's also about how we're ready to embody the truth of who we are and create a heaven on earth. But the heaven is not something outside of there. It's not somewhere you go after you finish incarnation, and if you were a good person and did good things, then you're gonna go to heaven, or if not, you go to hell. No.
Okay.
The heaven can be here and now, and it's a certain, in fact, formula that we're gonna share in our teachings later. The way how we creating the heaven on earth through our own alchemy is, like when you really go into embody the mission, because part of our relationship is not just like our own joy of being together. It's a bigger part of the bigger picture, the mission that we are doing when we want and even when we don't want, when personalities get triggered about something, but you still have to, again, remember of reflection, the mirror, and look within and see where you forget the freedom and went into victim again. Because the process of alchemy takes time. It takes time of this reprogramming of the second brain we have here, and this is also we're gonna discover next video about the gut, about the solar plexus, about the second brain we have here, about this whole complexity of neural signals, and how it's much more advanced, in fact, than this brain, and that the brain that we have, if you studied neuropsychology, for example, that the brain doesn't create thoughts. The brain is an organ, a tool for receiving and analyzing information. And that's again can raise a question, but who we truly are.